And welcome to Crash Media Paranormal. I am Mrs. Roper,
And I'm Meemaw.
and I'm sorry that my husband Stanley could not be here today. I just miss him so much. You hear that,
Mhm.
Stanley? Mommy misses you.
Well, you need to get you a bunch of cats like me.
Well, this is true, except I'm allergic. Tonight we have for you some classic scares as I get to share my passion with you for the Universal movie monsters. And we begin right now. And you might be wondering, what the heck is wrong with Crash Media Paranormal?
Well, it's Halloween month and we got to do every episode in costume. So this week we decided to dress up as, our future selves.
Now, me, I am Mrs. Roper because, as you may know, there's something called a Roper Romp where people dress up like Mrs. Roper from Three's Company, and they all go and they have margaritas, and they have a big old party. Well, I was invited to one, bought the costume, but then guess what came up? A ghost hunt at Pickens County Courthouse. So the night that we were at Pickens County Courthouse, I was supposed to be at a Mrs. Roper romp, getting there romping on. But instead, I went and ghost hunted. But tonight, Miss Ashley, you are not very familiar with well, everybody's familiar with the Universal monsters. But have you ever seen like Frankenstein, Dracula, Wolfman, Creature from the Black Lagoon?
Um, maybe when I was really little, but I don't remember specifically seeing those movies. Like I know I've seen little clips and things like that. I don't know if I've ever actually seen like the whole feature film of each one.
Well, I grew up in the 80s, and imagine this little kid, loves paranormal, loves ghost stories. I got hold of a black and white TV in my own room. So I had a black and white TV in my room. We were rich. And late night movies came on, and they were usually Universal Monsters and Godzilla. So I was hooked. The model kits, everything. So Universal Monsters is literally one of my favorite things in the entire world. As a matter of fact, I do happen to own the entire DVD collection, Blu-ray edition of all of them, all of the classic monsters from Universal, and I believe this is mirror imaged. But yeah, if you do not own the Blu-rays, get them. They've all been remastered. They're all 4K. They are amazing. So tonight, as we talk about the Universal monsters, we're going to start off with the Invisible Man. I'm sort of going in a particular order. The Invisible Man is not my favorite, even though I do love them all. The Invisible Man is the one that I haven't watched as much as the others. But it's about a scientist named Dr. Jack Griffin, and it's played by Claude Rains, the talented Claude Rains. And he's engaged, and creates a formula, turns him invisible, and some craziness ensues. Now we're going to watch a small clip of what happens when the Invisible Man unveils himself.
Yeah, what's all this?
Keep back there.
Keep back, me? Do you know who you're talking to?
I give you a last chance to leave me alone.
Give me a last chance. You've committed assault, this what you've done, and you can come along to the station with me. Come along now, come quietly, unless you want me to put the handcuffs on.
Stop where you are. You don't know what you're doing.
I know what I'm doing, all right. Come on.
Get all of him.
Lock him up! All right, you fools. You've brought it on yourselves. Everything would have come right if you'd only left me alone. You've driven me near madness with your peering through the keyholes and gaping through the curtains, and now you'll suffer for it. You're crazy to know who I am, aren't you? All right, I'll show you. There's a souvenir for you. And one for you. I'll show you who I am and what I
am. Look, he's all eaten away.
Huh? How do you like that,
All right. So as you can see, it's a little cheesy. It's a little, it blends a lot of comedy with the horror. And of course, it's not horror for us. We're in 2024 and we see, killer clowns slashing each other. And, but the special effects were absolutely groundbreaking for the time. As you see when he's unwrapping, you can see through it. We know now that that's a prosthetic head and all that, but in the 1930s, that was some serious special effects.
Mm-hmm.
And this is definitely one of the better movies. Now they did remake it with I can't think of her name.
I was gonna ask you, wasn't there a Kevin Bacon movie?
There was, yeah, Kevin Bacon movie.
So, and I can't think of the name of it, but is that a modern day, rendition of that, or is it just completely different?
Yeah, it was a modern day reimagining of it, and then they did one several years ago with the actress from The Handmaid's Tale, and it was really good. Now, Universal has been trying to sort of revamp the classic monsters. They've made a few missteps along the way, but they are still pretty enjoyable. They started with The Mummy, and I think that was not a commercial success. But that leads us back into our next one, which is The Mummy. So The Mummy is Boris Karloff. Now, Boris Karloff is a legend, and this is about, Egypt. They dig up the mummy, and then someone reads an incantation, and the mummy comes to life. So let's take a look. So as you see, that is some really, really, really good makeup, especially for the time. That looks amazing. And that is Imhotep, who was brought back to life, and he falls in love with a woman, and it's a solid movie. The effects are solid, and the acting is very good. Now, as Imhotep goes about the years, he gets better and he gets better and he gets better as far as his skin comes back. Think the Rock, because they did do a remake of The Mummy with The Rock, Brendan Fraser, all those. So as he goes, his skin heals and everything. So the next clip we see is it reminds me a lot of the pacing of Dracula, which is my absolute favorite movie, which we'll see a little bit later. The pacing and the settings and all that is very reminiscent because they're the same studio. not the same actors, but they use the same sound stages and everything else. But in the next video, you're going to see them confronting Imhotep to say, hey, we know who you are.
I have something else to show you. Photograph.
Why do you show all this to me?
Do you think it conceivable that the mummy was not stolen, but restored to a semblance of life by the spell from the scroll of...
That scroll is my property. I bought it from a dealer. It is here in this house. I presume in that room. Never.
We had foreseen this. The scroll is in safe hands and will be destroyed the minute it is known that harm has come to us.
You have studied our ancient arts, and you know that you cannot harm me. You also know that you must return that scroll to me or die. Now tell that weak fool to get that scroll wherever it is and hand it to his Nubian servant.
The Nubian? The ancient blood. So you have made him your slave. If I could get my hands on you, I'd break your dried flesh to pieces. But your power is too strong.
Oh, that look is amazing. Now, you do realize who that actor is.
I do not.
The absolute legend himself, Boris Karloff. Does that name ring a bell?
Nope. Nope.
Frankenstein. He was Frankenstein.
Okay. Yeah.
So, he was an amazing actor. His presence, he just had a presence, and that look in his eyes.
Mm-hmm.
So, what did you think about that?
What I think is really cool is that I didn't know that the Mummy that was done in the 90s with Brendan Fraser. I didn't know that was a remake of the original. Like I didn't know. I just figured the Mummy that I know was kind of like its own thing. So that's pretty cool. I didn't know that was a remake.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So that's really neat.
So they've been trying over the years to sort of reboot the movies, and they want to have a shared universe like Marvel and Star Wars and all that, which I think they can do it. They can definitely do it. They've just got to hit that mark, and so far they haven't really hit the mark with the remakes, but hopefully, I do believe there are some new projects coming out that could actually help reboot.
Yeah. But I love the Mummy, the one that I know with Brendan Fraser. I love that one. I cosplay Evie also. So
very cool.
I've always loved that one. And so definitely I want to go back now and watch that original Mummy to know, kind of like be able to compare those two.
Exactly. And once you watch these movies, they're almost like an obsession. They're comfort to me. You know what I mean? Because I grew up with them, so they're absolute comfort movies to me.
And let me say this. Okay, so I know that you don't watch the show Supernatural.
Right.
I know you've told me before you've never seen that, which, by the way, you've got to watch Supernatural. Okay, and start at season 1. It's 15 seasons, so it'll take you a while, but do it. But there is an episode, and I can't remember what season it is. Maybe season 5 or 6 or 7, something like that. But there's an episode where it's all about the old classic monsters, and so like Sam and Dean, they go to this town, and it's like this I can't remember exactly what the guy is, but he can like transform himself into all the old monsters, like the Mummy, Dracula, and Wolfman, and like all in the Invisible Man. And so and I didn't even think about that when we were talking about this episode. But it just came to me. It's like, it's all the old original, like they go with the costuming and everything. You've got to check it out. Even if you don't watch the whole series, check out that episode. I'll see if I can find it. You would probably love it. But once you watch it, you're going to be like, oh, I need to see more of Sam and Dean. So you'll want to watch the whole series. But yeah.
Well, these monsters, Universal monsters, have actually spawned a lot of creations, such as the Munsters. Did you watch the Munsters?
I do. Yes, I do know the Munsters. Yes.
So all of them are directly taken from Universal monsters. Also, there was a show when I was a kid called The Monster Squad. The Monster Squad was
Sounds
amazing. It was great.
familiar.
You had Dracula, you had the Wolfman, you had Frankenstein, and they all helped, these little kids like solve
Mhm.
murder. I mean, not murders. solve. It was a kid show. Solve mysteries and everything. It was fun. It's one of those. I was really young, so I remember it. And they did do a couple of a movie from that, I believe, in the '80s, called The Monster Squad, which they need to bring it back. That needs to come back 100%. We need the Monster Squad back.
Yeah.
115%. now, now the Invisible Man, the Mummy, um, those I haven't watched as much as I've watched the ones coming up. The Wolfman was probably one of the ones that I remember the most growing up because it was always on TV. So the Wolfman
And
was,
I
uh huh,
have seen the Wolfman. I have seen
yeah.
the original Wolfman.
Now that
That's one
is
I have seen.
right. That is the amazing, amazing, amazing Lon Chaney Jr. And he's just gone down in history as just an amazing actor. So the
Mhm.
clip we're about to see, one of the things about the movie that I remember the most was this gypsy, the gypsy that told him about his curse and all of that. She's just always, for some reason, I don't know if it's her presence or her voice, but it's always been in my, I've always thought about that. When I think of the Wolfman, I think of this gypsy. So the
Yeah.
video you're about to see is the gypsy sort of like giving him the bad news.
Oh, I remember you. That night, and in the crypt.
Go inside. You killed the wolf.
Well, there's no crime in that, is there?
The wolf was Bela.
You think I don't know the difference between a wolf and a man?
Bela became a wolf, and you killed him. A werewolf can be killed only with a silver bullet, or a silver knife, or a stick with a silver handle.
You're insane. I tell you, I killed a wolf, a plain, ordinary wolf.
Take this charm, the pentagram, the sign of the wolf. It can break the evil spell.
Evil spell. Pentagram, wolfbane. Oh, I'm sick of the whole thing. I'm gonna get out of here.
Whoever is bitten by a werewolf and lives becomes a werewolf himself.
What do you think about that?
Yeah. Okay. I absolutely love werewolf movies, and so that I don't know why. Out of all the monsters, like the Wolfman, any werewolf movie is just I don't know. I love those, and I think one thing I remember my dad used to tell me he was a werewolf. So when I was a kid, I actually thought he was a werewolf.
Parenting 101.
Yeah. And so but yeah, I grew up watching, Wolfman and Silver Bullet and Howling and everything. And so
All right. All right. So what is the big thing that makes a werewolf movie? What is like the best thing about a werewolf movie?
oh gosh, I don't know. Maybe the transformation.
Yes, absolutely. The transformation. So, what is your favorite werewolf movie transformation?
I don't know if this would be my favorite, but I do love the Silver Bullet. I think because that was like one of the ones I would watch over and over and over when I
Yeah.
was a kid.
Oh, it was so
And
good.
so, and I think that there's so many movies who have portrayed the transformation like in different ways. And but that's the one I think that has really like stuck with me is Silver Bullet.
Right. I think mine would definitely 100% be American Werewolf in London.
Mhm.
The most, that was the iconic werewolf transition scene. And it actually is the transition scene that directly influenced Thriller, Michael Jackson's Thriller video.
Mhm.
So he got the same special effects guy, did the same, the same look, everything. So if you watch American Werewolf in London and then watch Thriller, you know
Mhm.
it's in the same family.
Yeah.
So that is great. And also The Howling.
Yeah.
The Howling is just a movie that I could watch. As a matter of fact, I think that might be this weekend's movie night because I've been wanting to watch that for a while. And while I was putting this all the stuff together for this podcast, I kept thinking about The Howling. So I haven't
Yeah.
seen it in so long. I've got to see The Howling.
Yeah, I haven't seen it in a long time either. And honestly, I think I might do a werewolf movie night weekend because I haven't seen a good werewolf movie in a long time. And I
Same.
love that it all comes from the Wolf Man that
Right.
just kind of like birthed this whole, genre of specifically like werewolf movies. But we're in the past, decade or so, there hasn't been many werewolf
No,
movies.
not really. There's been a
Like
couple
in
of
the
them.
80s and 90s, they were, really pumping them out there. But
Right.
like, there's a lot of vampire movies now, but there's werewolves aren't done that much anymore. And so
I think they
I
need a
don't
resurgence.
Yeah.
I love a good werewolf movie.
Yeah.
But don't try to remake American Werewolf in London. That won't work.
Yeah.
They sort of did with American Werewolf in Paris, and it wasn't. It was good, but it wasn't quite as good as the original.
Yeah.
Now, we are going into my absolute favorite ones. Number one being Frankenstein. Frankenstein not only is a classic, but the look of the monster is just so iconic that you cannot. I teach at high school, and they read Frankenstein, and you cannot escape this iconic makeup look. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's amazing. And when I was putting this together, of course, I looked at some colorized versions of it, which were actually really cool. But there's just so
There's
much
something
about this
about
movie. There's
there's something about like the black and white though that
Yeah.
I love.
exactly,
Yeah.
and that's the whole thing. And this has found its way so much into pop culture that in the background of like 80s movies, like I said, I'm an 80s kid, so if you look in the background of listen to the background in Halloween movies, it's always Frankenstein. Frankenstein is always playing in the background, especially this iconic scene.
Look, it's moving. It's alive. It's alive. It's alive. It's moving. It's alive. Oh, it's alive. It's alive. It's alive. It's alive. Oh, in the name of God. Now I know what it feels like to be God.
Yeah, I definitely know that scene. That's an iconic scene.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's alive. Now, a couple of cool things. Number one is based off of Mary Shelley's famous book, who was only, I believe she was 19 when she wrote it.
Mhm.
And really, it is the very first science fiction book.
Mhm.
So Mary Shelley, a 19-year-old young lady, birthed the science fiction movement.
Mhm.
Also, there is an actual religious disclaimer at the beginning of the movie because a lot of Christian organizations at the time were, leery of anything that the scientists say he's playing God, like he's like God, which you saw in the clip. And so there is an actual disclaimer at the beginning of the movie. And of course, Boris Karloff is and forever will be Frankenstein. But in the credits, which at this time all the credits came at the beginning of the movie, Star Wars is the movie that changed that. But all the credits came at the beginning of the movie, and in the monster, it just had a big question mark. So everybody knew who it was,
Yeah.
but he lost like a ton of weight because of the suit. It was like, and also to get the look, his jaws sunken in, he took his
Mhm.
bridge out. He would take his bridge out to sort of give his face a more sunken look. So
Yeah.
he committed to that role,
Mhm.
and it is literally one of the best monster movies, if the seminal monster movie that's out there.
Yeah.
So of course, Frankenstein is going to be on my very, very top list. All right. After Frankenstein, of course, everybody needs love. I mean, I've got Stanley. So
And I've got my
everybody,
cats.
exactly. So everybody needs love. So
Mhm.
if you're created, I guess you got to create a bride. So the next movie is, of course, what? The Bride of Frankenstein, another totally iconic look. Now, have you ever cosplayed as the bride?
I have not.
You should. It's amazing. So we're going to look at the bride when she meets her prospective groom. All right, so let's take a look.
The Bride of Frankenstein.
Friend? Friend?
Stand back! Stand back! She ate me.
I know,
That's
right?
sad.
I know, right? Just
Yeah.
that's just the poor guy. And that's the whole thing. Frankenstein is not a monster.
Mhm.
The monster, Frankenstein is a doctor, but the monster is not evil. He's very misunderstood. As a matter of fact, I'm going to show you a little video about how misunderstood he was and how he got himself into his predicament. All right, take a look at this.
Who are you? I'm Maria. Will you play with me? Would you like one of my flowers? You have those, and I'll have these. I can make a boat. See how mine floats? No, you're hurting me! No!
Whoa.
That was scary.
Yeah.
For the 1930s, that was actually a very controversial scene. You know, think Art the Clown splitting someone in half. That was like scary. They had like parents groups were like up in arms.
Well, even like in today's age, if like a child dies in a movie, like that's still pretty, unsettling. And
Right.
so, especially for back then, that was really kind of pushing those
Boundaries.
of
Yeah.
what, yeah, I
Yeah.
could see people back then like really being up in arms about that.
Right. And of course it was an accident because he's very childlike and he didn't mean to, it's
Yeah.
just, hey, why are you not floating?
Mhm.
But then, he's still childlike, so he's looking for love, and the brilliant Elsa Lanchester, who played the bride, did an amazing job. She actually played 2 roles in the film, so you'll see her, throughout the film, and not as the bride. Now, this is a very different. It's a very different from the original from Frankenstein, in that Dr. Frankenstein's not the bad guy. It's actually a new character called Dr. Pretorius, and he is played by Ernest Thesiger, and he definitely brings some camp, some queer coding to the role. You saw him in that clip that we showed earlier, but it's almost a little silly in some parts of the movie because he's like shrunken down some people, and they're like in jars, they're like, let us out, so it can be a little silly, but it's still just classic and just really good.
Yeah.
So that's definitely one of my favorites. I've got a very itchy dog over there who's who's making some noises, but so you hear, hey buddy. So he's a little itchy today, but yeah, the Bride of Frankenstein, just that look on Elsie Lanchester, just that iconic, that hair and everything. And one of the things when I was watching some of the colorized versions of it, a lot of the cosplay and everything has her black hair with like the white streak. Actually, her hair was red, so sort of like this. So imagine that. It just looks so good. I don't like a lot of colorized, but this is the only one of those one of the colorized versions that I looked at and I was like, oh, that looks really good. but still, it just is totally iconic in black and white. All right, now our next feature is The Creature. The Creature from the Black Lagoon. Now this is one of my, when I say favorite movies, I know it from beginning to end. I love this movie. One of my friends even has the pinball machine. And if you are a pinball person, you know the Creature pinball machine is top tier. It is the most addictive pinball machine you've ever played in your life.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, my friends have a Creature from the Black Lagoon themed bathroom, and it's really cool. But this movie it's amazing. It was shot in Florida, and that took place as for the African coast. In the scene we're about to look at, you're going to see just the amazing makeup effects, the amazing creature costume that was worn by several actors, including a swimmer, Olympic swimmer. But just you just got to see this.
We're clear. Stand by to pull her up with the winch. Pull her in. Oh! I'll go down and unfasten it. Keep slack. More slack. Slack. That's enough.
That's good. Now you're getting it. Just slip the bar to the ring.
Hurry, Dave. I've almost got it. Hey! He got it! No, don't shoot! Don't shoot!
I just love that makeup, or the costume. That is amazing. It's just one of the most iconic things in the world.
Yeah. And I love that. Okay, so back then there was a lot more physical, prosthetics and costuming and stuff like that. Because nowadays you get so much like CGI and stuff, and so there's something about like the actual like in physical parts that they would use for bringing something to life like that.
Right. It has weight. It has it has like depth. It's definitely there. Now, not only is it just a cool, makeup effect, but swimming. The swimmers that wore this were amazing. So I'm going to show you a clip of not only that, but the underwater camera work and everything is just absolutely beautiful. So take a look at this clip and tell me what you think. Now, story time. I grew up on the Warrior River. So we swam in the Warrior River a lot when I was a kid. So the first time I saw the creature from the Black Lagoon, I did not want to go swimming because I was convinced that those claws were going to come up and like scrape my feet. I was like, ah! So it did scare me.
Yeah.
Now I could watch it 20 times a year and it's
Yeah.
amazing.
So I've never actually seen this one, but comparing it to like more of the modern day, renditions of it, like The Shape of Water.
Oh, yeah.
Who was it? Benicio
No,
del Toro.
Guillermo del Toro. Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing director. Oh,
Yeah,
amazing.
Benicio del Toro. He was
Yeah.
the one in The Wolfman. That's right. And
Yeah.
so,
Well, yeah, you're right.
yeah. And yeah, I've seen The Shape of Water. And so just wondering, like, in comparison, because, I, like we mentioned, like the special effects and stuff, a lot of times now you get the CGI and you get digital and all that compared to the actual, makeup and prosthetics and stuff then. But like, what, how do you think it kind of like compares to this remake?
Well, with the remake, it was a physical suit. That's Doug Jones, the amazing Doug Jones, who was the monster in Pan's Labyrinth. He's Saru in Star Trek Discovery. He is absolutely amazing. Hocus Pocus. He was the I forgot his name. Hocus Pocus, the corpse, the guy.
Billy.
Yeah, Billy. Yeah, and Doug Jones is an amazing actor. So he brought that character to life. Yeah, that's an amazing.
They try to stay true to that, because
And I do believe a full-on Creature from the Black Lagoon remake is supposed to be in works right now, and I'm both nervous and excited to see it because The Shape of Water was really, really good. It got a little adult there, more than the creature ever did, but an amazing movie.
Yeah.
This is one out of all of them, you've definitely got to watch Creature from the Black Lagoon. And we have a mutual friend named Abby, and she is a creature fanatic. That is her favorite movie on the planet. So it's an amazing movie. Now we're going to get to my absolute favorite of all of them, and you could probably guess what it was or what it is. It is Dracula. I love me some Dracula. So this is the incomparable Bela Lugosi who plays Dracula. But what a lot of people don't know is that there's another movie that was filmed at the exact same time, and you'll never guess the name of it. Dracula, except in Spanish. So instead of Bela Lugosi, you've got Carlos Villarreal, you've got Lupita Tovar, and Barry Norton. And it is amazing. Now, I show, usually, as you know, I teach Spanish. So I will sometimes show my class Dracula, the original Bela Lugosi, and then follow that immediately with the Spanish version so that they can compare and contrast. So what happened is, while they were making the movie, at night, a director with a Mexican cast, well, Mexican, Argentinian, Spanish, Spanish-speaking cast would come in at night, and they would basically take a look at the dailies and say, hey, this is pretty good. We can do better. So technically, the Spanish version of Dracula is a better movie. Iconically, Bela Lugosi is and forever will be Dracula. So Bela Lugosi, famous for the role of Dracula, so famous, in fact, that he was buried in the Dracula Cape.
Oh, that's neat.
Oh, yeah. And he could never quite shake Dracula. He became sort of typecast. He was in a lot of Universal movies, including, oh my gosh, I just watched this movie the other day. The Dark House, I believe The Dark House, but he played the butler. He was also in The Wolfman. He actually played the Wolfman's father. But in the Spanish version, Dracula's played by Carlos Villarreal. And he's much more campier. You'll see in the clip that I'm about to show you. He's a little bit more campy, but technically the movie just has a very different feel. So we're sort of going to compare. So let's take a look at Dracula meeting Renfield. First, we're going to watch it in English, then we're going to watch it in Spanish.
I am Dracula.
Oh, it's really good to see you. I don't know what happened to the driver and my luggage and with all this, I thought I was in the wrong place.
I bid you welcome. Listen to them. Children of the night. What music they make.
All right, now I know you know that scene. Come on. Children of the night. What wonderful music they make. Which was also great in the Keanu Reeves version. That's an amazing scene in that as well. Now, let's take a look at the same scene in the Spanish version, which again was basically the same night that this was shot.
Soy Drácula. No podía usted ser más oportuno. No sé lo que pasaría con el cochero y con mi equipaje. Con todas esas cosas, creí que me había equivocado de casa.
Los muros de mi castillo están cuarteados. Abundan en él las sombras. Pero suba. Está usted en su casa. Escúchelo. Son los hijos de la noche. Qué hermosa música componen.
All right, what'd you think about that?
So actually, the Dracula that I grew up with was Bram Stoker's Dracula with Keanu Reeves and Gary Oldman.
Right.
And so that's kind of like the one that started my love of Dracula. So I've never seen either of the other two, those originals, but Dracula, that's one I think that has really stuck out to so many people because it has been done over and over in like so many different versions of Dracula. Even like on Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the series, they have a version of Dracula. Supernatural has a version of Dracula. It's just, at least I think it does, but if I can remember right. And then so I love Dracula. I think still like the Wolfman, the werewolves, like those probably are like my favorite like monster.
Right.
But Dracula's right there with it. I love vampire movies but yeah, Bram Stoker's Dracula with Keanu Reeves, and then that's probably my favorite Dracula movie.
Right. And without Dracula, you wouldn't have True Blood. You wouldn't have Interview with the Vampire. All of those directly came from Dracula. And now the Spanish version was actually lost, or it was incomplete. And then I believe one of the reels was found in a basement in Cuba. And they smuggled it out and they put it with the rest. And then the people at Universal remastered it, 4K'd it, and it's also available in the Blu-ray bundle. And you can find it. I also believe it's available in just the regular Dracula DVD. You can buy it with the Spanish version. Now, the other day, I also watched Dracula's Daughter, which was really good. It's one of those. It's not in this particular bundle, but I've always heard about it and never really watched it. I've seen clips, and I watched it, and I was like, very, very solid movie. And it takes place like immediately after Dracula. So after Bela Lugosi's Dracula, it like picks up right after, and it's worth a watch too. And I believe you can find that streaming. Well, you can find that streaming, and but it was I thoroughly enjoyed that. But yeah, so that is our little tour of the Universal Monsters. Now, does that make you want to go back and borrow my Blu-rays and watch all of the monsters?
I think so. I think I'm gonna start with the Wolfman.
Well, we need to have a monster movie night. Introduce the kids to the real monsters in the world.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I've thoroughly enjoyed this. Now, our next Black and White Frights, we're going to look at some of your favorite old black and white horror movies. And also, if you have joined us and have some suggestions for some black and white movies, black and white old horror movies that we may not have seen, give us some suggestions. And, you can always reach out to us at crashmediaparanormal@gmail.com. Also, give us some comments about what you think about the Universal Monsters. What do you think a reboot? How do you think a reboot could work? All right. So I hope everyone has a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful spooky season, and we will be back next week with a couple of more, costumes.
Yeah.
All right. And I hope everyone has a wonderful week. Ashley, have a wonderful night, and thank you for listening to me patter on all night.
Well, you have a wonderful night too.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. If you want to see more videos or want to be a part of our live investigations, hit the subscribe button. Also, if you have any ideas for future investigations or want to share your own paranormal encounters, please feel free to leave a comment or send an email to crashmediaparanormal@gmail.com.